Okay, everybody, right, we've just got our workshops coming back through. So I won't plug in, I'm just going to go from the screen just for a couple of little reminders for you. So come on in, guys, come and sit down, and we'll crack on in a moment. So welcome back. I hope you've had a great day so far for the last session. Give yourselves a little round of applause for seeing the day through. Well done. Awesome effort. Great. We keep going from hot to cold, hot to cold. Hope it's not too hot in here. Now, don't forget, we have now closed our little quiz. So hopefully you entered. We will reveal the answers a little bit later. Please do get in touch with me if you have any stories or you want to get a copy of the digital magazine. Just let me know. Drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you guys. Please, feedback would be awesome. We have had the QR code around there. You come and scan that at the end if you want. I will send the link to everybody after the event. We'll send you an email next week just as a bit of a roundup, so you can scan that. Just give us some answers. The drone, and of course the audio cassette gizmo. So that would be a great one. Has anyone not got a prize draw card? You've not got one? Could you come and a card just here? There's always one, isn't there? There you go. Get the card down there. That's right. So hold on to that, because when we do the prize draw at the end, if it's a random draw, your number could be the one that comes up. You never know. Right. One more thing. Minecraft. Don't forget the Minecraft competition. A couple of people who have spoken to me about that. If you need any information, again, get in touch. But we've got about 2 weeks until we launch that. Don't miss out, because you'll get into trouble. Right. Thanks to our sponsors, of course. Now, we've got our afternoon session with all about AI, which is something that's on a lot of people's minds. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome up Justin Flitter onto the stage from AI New Zealand. Justin founded the group. It's an independent organisation to offer practical advice, ideas, inspiration. Well, he'll tell you all about it. Initially to business, but now more as education as well. So I will leave the stage to Justin. Awesome, mate. And we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end as well.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Last week I was travelling around Southland talking to master builders. Today I'm in front of a bunch of educators. It's quite an interesting life we lead, isn't it? I expect when I ask this question, I'll get a different response to what I did in Gore last week. Perhaps I should turn the question on its head, you know. How many of you are not using AI tools? Okay. Last week we probably had about 18 out of 20. So that's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. I've got my daughter Fern is 11 months old. Cute as button. She will probably never learn to drive, and she probably won't need to learn to type either. The way that we interact with devices is changing. I think she's going to look back on us, and keyboards to her will be like Walkmans to us. Voice and gesture. And that was the kind of genesis for me back in 2016-17 when we started New Zealand.ai. We were starting to talk to devices. Amazon, Google, Siri. We were starting to ask it questions. What's the weather today? What's the recipe for this? Turn my lights on. And these companies are building up this immense data set of natural language. When my wife and I went to South America, people were doing voice messages on WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. They weren't typing messages like we all were here back then. And so they were building up this treasure trove of multilingual data sets around natural language processing. And you know, marry that up with the way that we're interacting with devices, we can kind of start seeing the genesis of where we kind of get to today. In the last 18 months, more than 1 billion people have used generative AI tools, making it the fastest adoption rate of any general purpose technology in history, right? So my job is I spend most of my time working with senior leadership teams and talking about how businesses can identify why, where, and how to utilize AI to help supercharge their human potential within their companies. And it's kind of interesting, I was reflecting on the fact that you're all supercharging human potential in the classroom. And so today we're going to try and line these up. I'm not going to necessarily showcase a whole lots of different ways that you can utilize these tools. I want you to go out and experiment with them. But I kind of really want to connect the technology and what's happening around the world with different use cases, how companies are utilizing them, and that hopefully might inspire or frame the way that that you help, supercharge the human potential with the kids that you're working with that's powered by AI, right? So in the last 18 months, 1 billion people have used generative AI tools. Friggin' astonishing. And then in the last couple of weeks, Meta launches their AI out to however more billion people. Now in Facebook Messenger, you can fact check and ask questions and do all sorts of stuff. So never before have we seen a technology become as relevant and as quickly as generative AI. And it's really because for the first time in human history, we've actually created something that's smarter than us, which is still pretty astonishing when we think about it. We're really in the midst of an intelligence revolution, right? If you think back just 5 years ago, the whole idea of even just contemplating the idea that we might be able to scrape the entire internet, to codify human intelligence into a prediction engine like a large language model so that no one would have to start a job from scratch. It was just unfathomable. We never dreamt it. Well, someone, maybe Sam. Today, as an educator, you must feel pretty remarkable to have tools like these that can enhance your ability to teach and your students' ability to learn at pace. And interestingly, last year, when we interviewed 16 and 17-year-olds about their opinions on the future of work, their greatest concern was working for a company that doesn't use AI. And really, generative AI has been the game changer, right? Tools like ChatGPT and Gemini and Copilot, the world's greatest consultants that know nothing about your business or you or your classroom, but they all want a job to do. And that's a really important distinction. For those general tasks that humans have done time and time again and published them on the internet, they're really exceptionally good at those things. They're exceptionally good utility tools. And that's kind of the place where we want you thinking, we want companies to start using them. Oops. For decades, last few decades really, the search for knowledge has started with asking Google a question, typing it into that famous search bar, only to still have to find the needle in a haystack of 11 million search results. It's pretty ridiculous when you start looking at the tools that we have today that are answer engines that are providing you with blended search results. They're going out and finding all the needles in the haystack that curate the answers, that curate the content that you're looking for. It wasn't until large language models, that were built on GPTs, were launched 18 months ago that this became a reality. Today, these answer engines, as I put them, I'm not quite sure answer engines is quite the right analogy when we're talking about our students. Perhaps less about the answer and more about helping you understand how to solve the problem could be a better analogy. Now we're in companies now, and I'll give you plenty of examples, we're utilizing these tools every day. What are the 10 best questions to ask a quantity survey in a job interview? Create a marketing plan for a building company. Create me a classroom outline for this. Will this design meet the resource consent rules in Queenstown or Wellington or Auckland? And so this is international research that came out, I think, in January. We're probably not quite, maybe we're close. I change my opinion every day. The challenge with consumer-grade tech like this, though, is that everyone can access it in a browser, some for free, It's incredibly accessible. And when people start playing around with it, they start thinking about the ways that it can help them in their job. This technology is not provisioned into a classroom or a workplace like normal technology, like Xero or ERP or a CRM platform might be. And so you've got this bottom-up pressure. You've got middle and senior management all of a sudden seeing people doing stuff with ChatGPT, and they're like, what are you using? What are you sharing? Where is that data going? And there is still a fear in some workplaces. People don't want to admit that they use ChatGPT to do a little bit of the job. They're feeling embarrassed by it. I'm like, turn it on its head. If you were in an agency, and if I'm the client and we were in an agency meeting, and you said, oh, it's okay. I don't need AI. I'm going to do the job from scratch. I'm like, you what? You're going to start the job from scratch. You're going to waste all that time when you can be short-shifting your work using generative AI tools to accelerate that. Why do we have to pay for all that time when someone's already done it before 1 million times? And we can accelerate that, right? So one of the key things is thinking about, yes, this happens, right? And this is also why we start getting scenarios in companies and in some schools and environments where they're just like, no, you can't use this stuff. And that's the worst scenario to be in. If companies are concerned about security, telling people they can't use it is the worst security idea possible. We need to enable it. We need to provision these tools within our tenancy, within the security protocols that we have wrapped around our business, so that the conversations that people have with ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or whichever tool you want to use don't evaporate. That the questions that they're asking, the information that they're sharing is safe and useful. We can continue to build on that knowledge, right? Yes, there are going to be jobs that disappear. More than likely, it's going to be fractions of your job which disappear. There are going to be tasks that become automated, augmented, or optimized with AI. The way that we do things is changing. There are still going to be ever more problems for people to solve. While I think that the jobs and the way that we do them, they're always going to change over time. AI is certainly going to accelerate that. And that's why we need to be thinking about building sustainable careers, why we need to be supporting you and helping to understand and explore these different tools so we can help everyone utilize them effectively, right? About 50% of New Zealand, if you're a business in New Zealand and you're not leveraging AI at the moment, you're probably in the minority. And I say that fairly loosely in the sense, we'll call ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. If you're not doing something, at least in that space, you're probably in the minority. And that's compared to about 70% of Australian companies that report utilising AI. So it's the new normal, right? It's just no longer an optional thing. We have to get people to start thinking about utilising AI in their day. We've got to change our work processes, change the way that we go about solving a problem to utilise AI, to get fluid, to get comfortable with using it. So there is very much a change in behaviour. So, of course, large language models like Gemini and Copilot and ChatGPT and all these sorts of things, they're just a tiny fraction of what AI can do and the capabilities of it today. So what is it? So AI refers to the capability of machines or software to imitate intelligent human behaviour, even intelligence that hallucinates sometimes, right? Generative AI uses neural networks, like us, and deep learning to analyze patterns in large data sets to generate content like text, images, audio, and video. And the process involves synthesizing the learned information to create outputs that mimic human-like creativity and understanding. There's AI for everything. Machine learning, of course, is the field of computer science. It uses stats to give computer systems the ability to learn with data without being explicitly programmed. They are pattern recognition systems, and they can be inherently biased, as we'll give some examples today, and often biased in quite unpredictable ways, right? Cancer cells might not be detected because there wasn't a ruler next to the cancer cell, which was in all of the training data. Or it might be the fact that men are more often shortlisted for your jobs, not because you've historically hired more men, but because of the sports that your employees play. So large language models, generative pre-trained transformers, are predicting the next word in the sentence. So they use tokens. So effectively, a token is a part of a word, and there are multiple tokens that will make up a word. And so effectively, just like humans are, really, we're just trying to figure out what the next word in the sequence is. And sometimes you get it wrong, and you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and that's what we call hallucinations. And of course, these models can be fine-tuned with your data. So generative pre-trained models, they're built on a whole swathe of data at a point in time, and as we use these tools, the interactions that we have, the conversations that we have with them, the information that we share with these tools, all being used to fine-tune those models. We've got digital humans. I guess the innovation out of New Zealand with this would be Soul Machines with Dr. Mark Sager and Greg Cross in Auckland. So they built a neural network. Actually, back in 2013 at TEDx Auckland, we had Baby X in a tent projected onto the inside of the tent, and you walked into this tent, and Baby X would not just talk back to you, but she would respond to your facial expressions, your gestures, your body language, and it was an astonishing experience. Today, Soul Machines take K-pop stars, golfing legends, and they turn them into digital humans on a mobile device that you can have a conversation with, not like a chatbot, but like speaking to a digital human. And of course, they can do it at scale. Natural language, of course, with large language models, and of course when you upload a video to YouTube and it's automatically transcribed, and your Zoom meetings and everything is automatically transcribed for you, that's great natural language. Computer vision is how we teach computers to see. In Auckland, you might be sitting at an intersection with the lights, and across the road is a billboard, and you might be driving a 2007 BMW and an ad comes up for the 2024 BMW. Right? You go through a Z fast lane, it identifies your number plate, knows it's on an app, you fill up petrol and drive off, and it charges your card. We might be identifying or grading kiwi fruit through a pack house. There are any number of kind of different examples with that. In construction, they're using cameras to monitor the waste that goes into the rubbish bins on a construction site to identify how much wood or what type of material is wasted more often, so they can, I guess, optimize their ordering and the materials for next time, or figure out where someone was making a shortcut. Air New Zealand used computer vision to monitor the cheese that you didn't eat on the plane, and it found out that there was a whole lot of blue cheese that was coming off. So you don't get blue cheese on Air New Zealand flights anymore. Of course, robotics. We've got robots now in hotels around New Zealand that will be delivering you room service, perhaps even taking away your dirty plates from the restaurant. We've got robots that are being trained to pick kiwi fruit, albeit not as productively as humans yet. And we're using robots in hospitals so that doctors can operate on patients from halfway around the world. And we've got process automation, which is, if we're thinking about maybe even someone applying for a vehicle loan and they're submitting a PDF or perhaps an online form, and there's a whole step of digital and human tasks that have to go through that process to authorize the loan. And so we can map out those processes and we can automate those. And this is fast turning into kind of AI agents where, and I think this, 2024 is certainly going to see a whole lot of new platforms coming out around AI agents. So if we think at the moment we have like custom GPTs where you can train it with a little bit of data, you can give it some context, and you can give it a task to do. With AI agents, those custom GPTs, those AIs, might be able to navigate around a website for you. Click on a button to book an Airbnb, pay for your flights to Queenstown for the weekend, do a whole lot of other digital tasks that previously are very manual, time-consuming things for us. You think of AI agents as having a personal mentor, having a 2IC, a digital employee that can work alongside you, that might be able to talk to other companies' AI agents. The example that we gave with the master builders around Southland last week was when they have an order come in, there's some processes that have to happen, it goes into Xero, and then somebody has to call up Carter's and order the materials to get delivered on time. And certainly that process would seem to be one that an AI agent would handle pretty well. This is Brad Craig. So this is the Apparel Master Laundromat in Inglewood. They've just gone through a massive technology facility upgrade. They've deployed different types of artificial intelligence to identify the size of the towel, to be able to direct it into the right lane, and also folding machines. So they can now handle 700 to 800 towels an hour, which is pretty remarkable. They've got 55 people that work in this laundromat. No one's lost their job. They've just increased the capacity and the profitability of that site. They're now leveraging their people to scale up. Genesis Energy came out, this was at Microsoft Ignite a few weeks ago. So Genesis Energy have deployed Microsoft Copilot across 300 people, and their research come back from their employees saying they got up to 5 hours a week and increased productivity. So that means they were able to do 5 hours more work per week as a result of doing this. And hopefully the tasks that they managed to do with Microsoft Copilot were tedious, dull, repetitive, that freed them up time to actually do what they were employed to do and being creative and doing really high value, more meaningful work, right? This is Vulcan Steel. This is a health and safety exercise. So they put cameras on the back of their flatbed trucks to identify workers in high-vis vests and hats and all that kind of stuff. Fruitometry is based in Tikawiti, Tauranga area, and actually Chris, who set this up, came out of Team New Zealand tour a couple of tours ago, and he built a supercomputer in his garage, and he fitted the quad bikes with lights and cameras and a whole lot of tech, and they drive up and down the kiwi fruit orchards, throughout the whole growing cycle, and they can identify, which branches, which plants have disease, which ones need water, which need fertilizer. Once the kiwi fruits start growing, they can help the farmer predict the yield from the harvest. So they know how many pallets they need and how many workers they need to pick the kiwi fruit and all that kind of thing. Now, I was in talking to Zespri a month or so ago, and we talked about this innovation. And at the moment, they're running it up and down quite small kind of kiwi fruit orchards. There's quite a lot of light coming through there. And the Zespri guys said that in their big orchards, it's quite dark underneath the canopy. And they've tested this, and the accuracy on it just wasn't quite good enough for them. But they're changing the way that they grow kiwi fruit. They're going up instead of out. And so this technology will actually be incredibly useful for them once they start vertical growing for kiwi fruit. Insurance companies are combining own data, the data that you share about when your property was made, what it's made with, all that kind of stuff, with partner data, which might be specialized weather and geospatial information, and they're coming up with a model that allows them to provide you with address-based pricing instead of postcode-based pricing, so everyone should be paying a fair whack for their insurance. And this is Halter. So they never set out to be an AI company per se, but they have certainly integrated a lot of data and automation and the use of artificial intelligence to help farmers optimize their herd management. Here, being able to move cattle, so they've got a neck brace around them, and so they can move them with vibration, with sound. They can identify when the animals are on heat or lame, and move them away to be looked after carefully. This is pretty cool. This is Maui 63. Tane set this up. So this is a $250,000 drone. Flies between Raglan and Piha and out to 50 kilometres. And it's spotting for Maui and Hector's dolphins, and then notifies all the fishing trawlers in the area to stay away. And it also monitors how close the dolphins get to land, because it's the cat piss that runs off the land that causes the toxic plasmosis that mostly kills the dolphins. Random fact you learned today. Okay, so let's go back to generative AI. So ChatGPT puts words together like they have in the past, predicts the next word in the sentence. Text-to-image generation tools like Midjourney put the next pixel in the sequence. And they're advancing at an astonishing rate. Has anyone played with Midjourney before? Yes. Anyone else play with DALL-E? Yep. Leonardo? No, that's the Australian one. They're getting pretty good. They're getting pretty astonishing. They're getting so good, and this is still 2022, right? That this guy, Jason Allen, won a fine art competition with a Midjourney design piece. Brilliant. Steve Ballantyne and his company, Brand IQ in Auckland, have mastered Midjourney to create commercial images, specifically for images for companies where the images are really hard to get or expensive to put together. So if you've got to take a crew of camera gear and all the material up the side of a mountain to get the sunrise shot with the right product in there, with the boots, on the angle of that's expensive. With Midjourney, you can literally just imagine the background that you want your product to be in, and then we can use the editor to place the product in afterwards. So it's a part of the process. It's not an end-to-end part of the process. All right, I will cut that there. Have anyone of you seen that video before? A few of you? Okay, so I cut it a little bit short. It's a couple of minutes long, but I think it's beautiful, and I think it's useful to reflect and remind ourselves that these generative AI tools are trained on vast amounts of publicly available information. They reflect the biases that that information contains. And if it's true that next year 95% of the content, that marketing content on the internet is going to be generated with AI, we have to be very conscious and very careful about the data sets that we're using to create that content. So I think it was a beautiful reminder from Dove. This is a Matter Studio in Auckland as well. They're a photography company. To get a photo of this lounge suite for a magazine cover, previously they might have had to chuck it in a truck and drive around and find the perfect house with the perfect environment that they wanted to take that photo in. Now, of course, they can take a photo in the studio and imagine the background that it's in. And so they can come up with hundreds of ideas. Right? The cost of producing all of those different ideas would just be insurmountable. And so they can get really creative in thinking about how they promote this content. And this is Sora, so text-to-video generation tools. There's plenty of them around. Runway, ML, Pika Labs is starting to become a thing. Sora is not quite out for the public yet, but it promises 60-second clips, where previously we kind of had 3 or 4 second clips. And this has got 11 labs integrated into it. So 11 labs does the voice piece.
Where the horizon kisses the heavens, one man dares to journey where few have ventured. Armed with nothing but his wit and an unyielding spirit, he seeks the answers to mysteries that lie beyond the stars.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Justin.
So we went and did a little tour with Young Enterprise. So we created these videos. So this is done in...
We're going to explore how you can use AI.
This is done in HeyGen. Has anyone played with HeyGen before?
Let's get started.
No, okay. So that's English. So in HeyGen, I went into a studio. You can create a video avatar from an image, a photo of yourself, or you can upload a little bit of video. Might be, say, 5 minutes of you talking to camera. And it will create a digital avatar of you. And it has to be you because it will validate your identity with your webcam. So you can't create a digital avatar of the principal and make them say that there's no homework tonight. It will clone your voice. 11 Labs clones my voice much better. You can also upload a voice recording and it will marry up your voice, the lip syncing with your voice and the video. And it's very, very good. And it's like $20 a month. Deep fakes to a whole nother level. That was English. All I do is change the script, press export every time I want to create a new video.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Justin Flitter. J'ai fondé AI New Zealand en 2017. 大家早安。我是加斯汀·弗里特。我于2017年创立了 AI New Zealand.
If only it could do today. I'm sure that's coming. I think this is remarkable. Getting the lip syncing right, being able to do multilingual. If you want to create a presentation now, if you want to do a product video, if you want to showcase your science project as a video presentation, you can go into HeyGen, you can create all your slides, you can design it all up, and instead of having to stand in front of a camera, with a teleprompter and remember your lines and probably have to do it 3 or 4 times, and then someone's got to edit the footage, and it's time-consuming and expensive, right? And now we can just do it over and over and over and over again, well, within your credits, of course. Right. There's a whole lot of use cases here. So we're going to go through structured and unstructured data. So structured data being spreadsheets where everything's tabled and listed and organized nicely, right? And so we're utilizing machine learning algorithms and structured data to monitor transaction records. So the banks are using this to identify patterns that may indicate fraudulent activities. Spark and 1NZ and insurance companies and B2C companies are using it to identify customer, churn prediction, so behavior on your account, so they can predict whether or not you might be at risk, and they can step in and try and recover the account. Spark's actually utilizing it in their marketing, so instead of advertising to you all the time about buying a new iPhone, they're building a model now that will begin to predict when you're in the market to buy a new iPhone, so they can become more targeted, more tailored, and reduce the budget that they have to spend on always-on content like that. An example of using structured data within the classroom perhaps is, perhaps you could get students to predict their own performance by looking at historical data of their test scores, attendance in class, homework participation. Perhaps you could overlay like what their diet and exercise was to see whether that impacts their performance. You could set up cameras to watch a set of rubbish bins to identify the number and the types of waste that goes into that bin, and then get students to come up with ways to reduce those items. All sorts of stuff like that. Unstructured data. This is the difference between building a chatbot 5 years ago and today. 5 years ago, it was if this, then that. You'd literally go, if someone asked this keyword or this phrase or this question, give them that information. And now we can go into a tool, we can upload audio, video, PowerPoint, PDF, text, website links, whatever file format, content format you want, drop it all into a folder, and effectively we're training a large language model on our library of knowledge. And we can create a chatbot off the back of that that we can put on the website. We don't have to tell it what the answers are. The large language model will figure that out, right? So unstructured data, how are we utilizing that in businesses? So transcribing meetings and interviews, helping it to tell us what are the questions we should be asking, what are the tasks that we need to be setting for ourselves afterward. Of course, you've got writing blog posts and essays and articles and company strategic plans, perhaps researching your competitors. Actually, it's really good for researching competitors. Quite like that use case. You would have also seen that you can take photos and upload images into these tools and have conversations with them about that content. You can take a photo of a monument anywhere in the world and ask ChatGPT to give you the history of that space. I think it's really interesting to think about, and I think you've talked a little bit about prompts today, act like or think like prompts. I want to change public perception about deep sea mining, act like Greta Thunberg and explain how I should approach it. Or think like a nuclear physicist with 20 years experience working at NASA, how should I approach this particular problem? And it starts challenging your perspectives and giving you different ways of thinking about solving those particular problems from a mindset that you don't have yet. So there are 3 key use cases, very, very common use cases, and I'm kind of getting pretty close to time, that we're seeing a lot of companies using at the moment. So they're building chatbots from their own company data, so curating their product and their service information, all the stuff that their contact center and their customer service teams need to know, the frequently asked questions, and they're able to put that into create a large language model, or fine-tune a large language model rather, from that information and make that available as a chatbot on, and it's omni-channel, it can go through anywhere. They're using it for document creation, writing emails, writing company strategies, marketing plans, doing all of that stuff, building out your sales presentations, preparing board reports, writing legal documents. Actually, ChatGPT is pretty good at legal stuff, scarily. I wouldn't do what that guy in Canada did, though, and use ChatGPT to research the argument for his case, because it made up the cases that he then took to court as evidence. Yeah, that was a bit embarrassing. And then the third one is really thinking about all of, in most companies, we have all of these disparate data sets. You've got your Xero over here with your accounts, you've got Salesforce with customer information, you've got Microsoft Teams with chat and file storage and all that kind of stuff, and they don't talk to each other. You can't search amongst them all. And so now we're able to overlay a generative search layer across your entire company architecture to be able to create exactly like ChatGPT does or Perplexity, to create blended search results from all of that previously disparate company data. And with that, we can create a company brain. We can absorb vast amounts of information into a large language model to then help us automate tasks more efficiently, to build AI agents to become digital twins for us. So what we do and how we do it is rapidly changing. And it's you know, you've certainly spent quite a bit of time today looking at some different tools to help you with with thinking about adopting and applying AI into your class material. One that I'll just highlight is New Zealand made, which is Teachers Buddy. They've got about 2,000 teachers using this. So this uses ChatGPT for OpenAI integration, and I guess they're kind of codifying the prompting that you would do to build out a lesson plan. But you can import historical, your lesson plans. You can refresh stuff. It doesn't look great on this screen, unfortunately, but go and have a look, and it'll give you insights in terms of how to assess students from these lessons and things like that as well, right? Because it's not about just regurgitating what they found. They've got to actually contextualize and understand the relevance of what they're talking about. So it's the critical thinking here that's really important, right? And that's kind of the end of where I wanted to get to. Today is the worst that AI will ever be. Right? We're literally at the inflection point of the hockey stick curve. I spend 20, 30 hours a week researching, studying, interviewing, to try and build my understanding and comprehension around this. I'm delighted to be able to share some of it with you and some of our experience working with companies. We're going to be doing the Great New Zealand AI Roadshow in August and September. We'll be running around doing AI for Business workshops as well, so look out for that. Otherwise, thank you very much. Great to be here.
Just a few minutes. Just maybe a quick Q&A.
Sure.
If you've got has anyone got questions?
Hey, ChatGPT, what should I ask Justin today?
And we're going to give this a go to see if we can answer. So, right. Are you ready? There we go. Okay.
It was a miracle.
Aha.
Hello, I'm teaching down in a high school down in Invercargill, and the biggest issue we are having, I love using AI. I teach my year 12, year 13s to use it as a tool in their research. However, authenticity checking, it is incredibly hard to find any AI checker that is actually accurate, because
Of course it is.
You put in the Bible and it says that it was AI generated. We use BRIS to do the run through of it, so we can see exactly how students are typing, but they know how to get around that.
Yeah, but you can train ChatGPT to write like me.
Exactly. So that's our biggest concern. We've got a lot of teachers.
Why are you trying to solve that problem?
We've got a lot of teachers moving to pen and paper again.
Sounds like
Because-
Auckland grammar.
Because we can't authenticate their work anymore.
Can't authenticate their work. How do we think about that? I think this is a really challenging question, right? The problem you have in the classroom about validating their knowledge with AI writers in the toolkit is the same as what we have in businesses, right? There's companies in New Zealand. They are processing applications from nurses, international nurses that want to apply for license to work in New Zealand. They go through a Zoom call, which is not recorded, and they have to submit answers to questions in a Word doc. So of course, they're just going to go to ChatGPT or AI writers to answer the questions about, to showcase their understanding and knowledge of a clinical environment, right? But that's creating huge amounts of risk. And so we have to think about different ways of asking and assessing knowledge and critical thinking that aren't just going to be answered by using an AI tool like that, right? There has to be some other layer to it. It is a challenge. AI writers, AI checkers, none of them will work. They do not work. Yeah.
Does this work? Okay. So I'm just wondering, you were talking a lot about how AI is going to be used to sort of advertise and predict people's behavior patterns. But I've noticed that especially with younger people and maybe people with who are possibly neurodivergent, it's actually really hard for AI to predict their behavior. I've noticed in my own experience and with other people. I don't know, it's just, is that something you take into account, just like different like brain developments and all that kind of thing?
Yep, probably can't answer that one for you, apart from the fact that machine learning is exactly that, and I'm sure over time it'll get much better at figuring that out. Got one down here.
So I guess my observation with the advent of the internet was about access to information, and that advent potentially changes the power dynamics between the relationships between teachers and students. If a student can access the same information that we have, it kind of changes that dynamic. With the advent of AI, what's your thoughts on its implications for the value of knowledge? So if we go back to the question down the back about authenticity of someone regurgitating information on something, getting them to effectively replicate already known knowledge, if they're going to enter a workforce very soon where knowledge, like having that knowledge is almost superfluous, what's your thoughts on what might they do?
So as I said, ChatGPT is the world's greatest consultant that knows nothing about you or the business that you work in, right? So that's where we want to get to a space where with a company, we're fine-tuning that large language model with the knowledge and the domain knowledge that we have as a company, so it's creating more relevant stuff. From that perspective, you've still got to contextualize. It's not going to give you great, specific, useful answers. It's going to give you high-level structure or information that you've still got to apply. You've still got to bring your lived experience within the communities that you're selling or serving, the products and services that you're doing, the brand persona, and all of the other attributes that go into delivering a business service. There are still immense challenges with that. It's giving you a start. It's a part of your process. It's not the entire process.
Did we have one? Go on, there we go.
So, I work with UC Vision, and I work on the third floor at the University of Canterbury Computer Science Education. And the only kopu I want you guys to think about and take away from this kōrero is kaitiaki. Kaitiaki for data, kaitiaki for our reo, and kaitiaki for your understanding of what pedagogy is and teaching is. So kia ora, definitely AI is here. It's an amazing tool, we use it every day, but we are really thoughtful about what we feed it. We are really, really thoughtful about will we let AI take our digital technology lessons as DITA, because I'm also Secretary of DITA. We have asked the person that keeps on asking, please feed the Canadian system for AI with your lessons on digital. There's a reason for that. It's because we don't know where the data is going to end up and who's going to use it. So that would just be my message. I love AI, I love technology. We use it all the time. We use it for financial policy writing. Awesome. Te reo, if you want to know about AI in Te reo, Te Taka Keegan. He will explain why. He will explain why we don't feed AI our reo. Okay? So that's just, as I was listening, it's an awesome, awesome tool. But we are in control of it. It doesn't have the capacity to find out what we want if we don't feed it. Kia ora koutou.
Cool, thank you. There we go, plenty of food for thought. Great. Okay, Justin, thank you. We'll finish there for now. Thank you, Justin, for that.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. And 3 o'clock, perfect timing. So just to finish up, Nathan, would you like to come up onto the stage? Some of you may know Nathan. Our second speaker, Nathan, is just going to tell us about a few things that you're doing at Hagley College. You don't need to speak through that. You can speak through that. And you should just be straight into your... There we go, look at that. Right.
Okay. Tēnā tātou. Iwi he kai hautu ako ahiko aho ki te Punawaia Waipapa. Afternoon everyone, it's a really cool opportunity here to be able to talk to you today about some artificial intelligence trials that we've got happening at Hagley College. I feel like we've just made one step into AI as part of teaching and learning, but hopefully I've got a few insights for you today which will be valuable. Top of mind for all of our work with AI is NZQA's authenticity policy, which we've already talked about already. We have to ensure that the students' work that they're submitting is their own work and it's produced by the learners. So therefore, the work that we're doing with AI, we try to keep it as much as possible in the student learning phase of the process as possible. So we don't use AI at all for assessment. It's all about how can we think about using AI to help students to learn faster or to learn more efficiently or even to learn in a way that they previously haven't had possible. Our first trial was with Year 13 Health. The first assessment for Year 13 Health involves students researching complex academic journals, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who struggles to look at and read academic articles. So the achievement standard requires students to research the articles, interpret them, and it's the health teacher, Dan, he feels that's a real barrier to success. Achievement in this particular assessment hasn't been particularly high in the past. So he wanted to try something new. So his inquiry question was, can students better understand complex articles by using AI? And in our case, in fact, for all of these trials, we're using Microsoft Copilot. So in practice, Dan still gets the students to find and research these academic journals and make their own notes. They do their best to interpret them and to understand them. And then after that, we're using Microsoft Copilot to summarise those articles. So the prompt the students use, please act as a tutor for a 17-year-old student in New Zealand to summarise this article. And it generally does a pretty good job. It breaks down the article into easy to read bullet points for students, and they seem to be able to understand things a lot easier. Well, that didn't quite come out so well, but student feedback has been very positive. Can't quite read it there, but students are saying positive things about it, and the last student there is saying it's helping us to get through the articles quicker so that we can understand things much easier. Dan, the health teacher, his comments were that AI is definitely helping students to understand complex articles, so the answer to his inquiry question was yes, he thinks it does help students to understand. Students were progressing faster through the standards, so previously he felt that students would get quite bogged down with trying to get past the issue of learning about these articles, so students moved quicker through the assessment. And he felt that the results that he got with this standard better reflected the understanding of the students. And that was the real issue. This graph here on the vertical axis shows the percentage of students who recorded an achieved grade or better over the last few years. And it wasn't particularly high. And Dan felt that this was something that he couldn't see again. So this year the achievement was much higher. And I know there's 100 things which influence student achievement, but we felt there's something going on here that we need to explore a bit further. The second trial that we've got going on is in Year 11 English. This one's still happening at the moment. And Kieran, the English teacher, he's got a large number of students in his class, as most Year 11 English classes do around the city and the country, I'm sure. And he felt that in this particular assessment that they were preparing for, students needed more feedback and more help with their writing than he could give with them. So his inquiry question was, can students improve their writing by gaining feedback from an AI? And in practice, this is what it looks like in Microsoft Copilot, and this is the prompt that Kieran gets all students to put into Microsoft Copilot. So he creates it with them and then gives it to them, and they paste it into their own Internet Edge at the moment. And so this one is pretty specific. So act as a friendly and encouraging writing tutor for 15-year-old New Zealand students preparing for a particular New Zealand achievement standard, and it's the new one. First, prompt me for a piece of creative writing and give me feedback on how to improve. Please provide me with feedback on the style and accuracy of my writing to help me improve how I write independently. Don't just rewrite things for me. So we're giving the AI some really specific things that we want it to do for us, particularly the age and the country we're in, the particular standard that we're looking at, and also the type of writing that it is, and exactly what Kieran wants the students to get feedback on, which is their style and accuracy, and to be able to write more independently, which is the whole idea. So Copilot responds in a friendly and a helpful manner and asks for the prompt. So students are doing this themselves, and then students would create this. Here's an example of what a student has created for their piece of writing that they want feedback on. And sure enough, Copilot gives pretty good feedback. It gives examples of the things that Kieran asked the AI to give the student feedback on. And it summarises and gives good key points and finishes with encouraging things like to help keep going and to be more active in providing more feedback in future. Student feedback, a little bit hard to read again unfortunately, but interestingly student A felt that the Copilot was encouraging and it was good for early drafts and motivated students to carry on. And probably the second student offered some pretty good insight was that I prefer teachers when asking a teacher. There's always about 8 other people waiting for help though. With the AI I was able to get independent, in-depth feedback that I'm sure would have taken a human quite a bit of time. So it's kind of achieving the process of kind of taking the place of a teacher, which I don't know whether it's good news or bad news. Kieran's findings as the teacher, his answer to his inquiry question was yes, he thinks it did improve the students' ability in their writing. And interestingly, even though that last student comment was that they preferred getting feedback from a teacher, there were many students who preferred to give their work to Copilot and get feedback on that. They were a bit nervous perhaps of knowing what the teacher thinks of their writing. So that was a bit of an eye-opener that we didn't expect. Some students prefer to get feedback from technology than their teacher. And the last one for this trial is creating the prompt is key. You can see there that we put in some really specific things about what we wanted. And I think Justin talked about the old idea of garbage in, garbage out in the old days. Now we can be a lot more specific than that. The last trial is a different course. It's an impact project course where students are undertaking major projects across pretty much the whole of the year. And for those projects, students need stakeholders to provide them feedback with their projects. And some stakeholders are their teacher, some experts in the community, and there has to be 4 stakeholders for this particular achievement standard. And it's often hard to get a 4th stakeholder, 4 people who know a lot about different range of projects. So, and this is the class that I teach, so my inquiry question was, can students gain useful feedback to improve their projects by using Microsoft Copilot? And in this case, here's an example of a student in my class who's creating a website about mental health. The first thing the students have to do is they create a draft brief or a plan of what they're going to do. And in this case, the student writes their conceptual statement, which is the what and the why of what they want to do, and then some specifications of how it's going to look. And the student would normally ask this to a human, and they would give them feedback. And by the time we get to the 4th stakeholder, often the feedback is pretty minimal. It might just be, it looks good, or I think that sounds right. So in this video, here's an example of Copilot responding to that feedback of what do you think about my specifications of the website? And it does a pretty good job. It does a far better job than a typical 4th stakeholder would do, and often better than the feedback that a teacher or a community expert would do too. So there's some really interesting things that students are able to get out of this AI that even humans wouldn't think of. And it's interestingly, the last point there, it talks about the different nature of creating a website about mental health. So it's interesting to see it's not just providing thoughts on specifications, it's going a bit deeper and talking about mental health too. I'm finding that the AI stakeholders giving excellent project feedback, and the students are getting really good improvements to continue with their projects. Only 3 out of 22 students chose to use AI as a stakeholder though. I said if you want to do this you can, and the other 19 students chose to use a person as a human stakeholder, which surprised me a little bit. But feedback from one of the students, again a little bit hard to read, I contact the AI stakeholder and get guaranteed feedback. AI gives me feedback and saves time. I talk to it like a human. So overall findings from the 3 trials that we've been involved with, we think that AI has potential to support student learning and probably achievement. There has been some misinterpretations from Copilot, there's no doubt about that. It's just like everything on the internet, nothing is 100% correct. And I read the other day that AI doesn't give you the exact correct response, it gives you the most likely response. So that's something we need to be aware of as well. There have been some mistakes. And even in the Copilot homepage, it says, please check itself. Last thing, students aren't as savvy as AI as we expected. It kind of reminds me of about 15 years ago when the whole digital native and digital immigrant thing arrived. And as teachers, we were really worried about we were behind the 8 ball and students would know more than us about this. But we haven't found that at all. We've found that as pretty keen teachers, the 3 of us, we know more, and you probably out here know more as well. So I think the idea of being worried about this and not being up to speed with it probably is not another one of those unfounded things. That's it, thanks.
Just before you go, anyone got a question? Oh, we've got a hand up there. Here we go. No, come on, I've got to use this for the sponsor, you see, otherwise I get docked money. No,
You said only 3 students picked AI. The other children, since they didn't pick AI, are some of them looking at the responses and going, oh damn, I wish I had chosen it?
Yeah, they are. It's an interesting course. The students really do rely on stakeholders to be able to progress through the project. And that's the biggest frustration, is that with the AI, they can choose to get feedback whenever they like, as opposed to making an appointment to see somebody, sharing their work with them and getting that feedback. So there's probably 2 points there. It's the quality of the feedback and the timeliness of it.
Okay. Anybody? Ooh. Anybody else? No, you're free, you can go.
Great, thanks.
Great, thank you, Nathan.